All right. Hello. My name is Liz McCleary. I'm with CBRE and I am a past president of the Chicago chapter of Cornet Global. On the other side of the computer is Maria Wynne, Chief Executive Officer for Leadership Greater Chicago. Thank you so much for being here, Maria, and for joining me today.
My pleasure, Liz. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So there's a lot happening in the world right now, and we thought what better way to bring some inspiration than with interviews of leading women here in Chicago. We're calling it 15 Women in 15 Minutes. So my timer is going. I have 15 minutes running right now. We want to laugh, be inspired, hear something exciting in an otherwise uncertain time. So to kick things off, I thought I would quote the real estate icon and venture capitalist Barbara Corcoran, as I have in past interviews. She once said, "My best successes came on the heels of failures." So let's talk about your career journey and how you got to where you are today. Were there any mentors or advocates along your career or any interesting roads you traveled to get here? Were there stumbling blocks or lateral moves that maybe shaped where you are today?
I would say all of the above, but thank you for the opportunity. My career really started with, a first accident, which was that I was an art major when I came out of college, and there were no jobs for teachers of art. And so about 3 months before I started college, before I finished college, I had developed an interest in business. And I had said to my dad, I think I really should explore this business thing. And he said, just finish. So I actually went out to look for a job and was able to land a role that paid more than a first year's teacher salary. And I was working for a women's health club. And what was fortuitous about that was that I was able to start a career being mentored by a woman who set a real example for me. Her name at the time was Jenny Bork. She was dating a gentleman by the name of Sid Craig. So Jenny Craig was my first sales trainer.
Wow.
So that inspired me. Actually, Jenny inspired me to really pursue business. I went on for a master's degree and targeted Xerox as the corporation that I wanted to work for because of its reputation, because of its technology advancements, because of so much of what it was recognized for at the time. You know, if you wanted to go into sales and have a career in sales, there were two companies you looked at, IBM and Xerox. So I went to Xerox and I fell into technology. You know, I was lucky enough to have been able to fall into a company that was going to be at the forefront of so many of the technologies that we use today. And I loved it. I loved it. So I was with Xerox twice in my career. I was with them for 11 years, then was recruited to go to Ameritech to be a general manager and basically help them with the reorganization of what was at the time a monopoly and making them competitive, helping to make them competitive in the small business sector. And then I was asked to return to Xerox, and I was with Xerox for another 7 years, coming back through what had been the outsourcing side of the business. So in a short time, I went from hardware and technology to telecom to learning the outsourcing end of the business. And from there, I went on to Microsoft, where I finished off my technology rounding with knowledge of software and porting into Microsoft so many of the skills that I had developed through career advancements, through laterals, through all of the things that we have in our movement. I would say that from a mentorship perspective, the earliest mentors that made an impact for me were men, and they really made a big difference. And I think it's important to say that because so many times I see women seeking out women as mentors, and we have to remember that we have to have mentors all around us. And men, in many cases, are the people who are still making decisions at the top, and learning the skills that got them there, understanding what got them there is really important for us as women to learn as well. So after Microsoft, I went on to the not-for-profit sector and became the CEO of the Girl Scouts of Greater Chicago in Northwest Indiana, the largest council of the world, leading a merger of 7 organizations into one. And from there, came to my current role. It will be 7 years in June.
Oh my gosh, 7 years. Wow.
I know.
Wow. It's funny, the mentorship piece has been a recurring theme that, seek out mentors not based on woman to woman, but based on people that will be there for you and will help you grow. Exactly what you're saying, I've heard echoed over and over and over again. So
And look for those sponsors also. Mentors give you a lot of advice. Sponsors put their name behind you
yeah.
and put the reputation behind you. So you have to earn a reputation that will allow somebody to have the confidence in you to become your sponsor.
Yeah, that's great advice, which is a great segue to my next question about advice. What advice would you give to somebody who is at the dawn of their career, and then somebody that might be 15 to 20 years in their career, and then somebody who's well into their career, maybe in a leadership role? Obviously, you see leaders come through your program every single year. So I'm very curious to hear what advice you would give to them as well.
Well, at the dawn of your career, you're still trying to figure out if that's really what you're going to want to love and do for a living, right? So give yourself permission and allowance to try things on for size, and see if what you thought you wanted to pursue in life is really what you want to do. And it's okay to switch. It's okay to do that. As long as you're keeping your eye on the fact that you're on a journey of accumulating the skills that are going to be part of your professional toolkit. So try things out, take some risks, and become really good at the basics. Hone in on your discipline. Make sure that you know how to work and how to work efficiently, and listen. Listen to what you're being taught rather than defy at every turn. There's a reason why some things have worked in certain businesses and why some of the disciplines of those businesses and sectors make sense. So learn those. Those will come in handy later on. At the midpoint of your career, I would say if you have taken the route of wanting to become a leader of people, work at being a leader. It takes work. And it also takes being able to be open to the fact that you're not perfect. And when you're first receiving feedback on the fact that you're not perfect, it's going to be hard to take. But listen to it and come face to face with the good of you, the bad, and the ugly, and learn how to manage it, because it will make a difference as you are a leader of people. If you become an individual contributor and want to become the best in your field, focus on becoming the best in your field, but also network in your field so that you're staying current and you know what's happening. And at the very top, I would say, as a leader, you have to really be aware of how you are coming across every moment of the day. So that can be really hard if you're not focused on taking care of yourself. So focus on your health. And health means not just your body, but also your mind. So take care of body and spirit. Get a lot of sleep. That's important. And invest in yourself and your time to be quiet and still. Whether it's taking a walk, whether it's meditating, praying, whatever soothes your soul is really important at these times. And answers come to you in those moments of silence. So take some time, even if it's just 5 minutes, to connect with the universe, or however you define that spiritual piece of yourself. And remember that you're always setting an example. People are looking to you. I was reminded of a story of McDonald's executives in the early 2000s, when they were launching the whole healthy living campaigns. And the executives would eat in the McDonald's cafeteria, but they would eat salads and a bowl of soup, and they would take the stairs all the time. They were setting an example.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's interesting because prior to COVID, a lot of employees were asking for quiet rooms. We've been so focused on collaboration and getting people together. And it is interesting, like you say, that moment of reflection that people can have is so important as well. We've seen that start to come through a little bit in real estate as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, great segue, Maria. So when you are having a bad day or you kind of feel beaten down by something, how do you turn that situation around? how do you stay glass half full instead of glass half empty, especially when things are a little bit out of control as they are now?
Well, I think that personality wise, I get kind of a running start. I'm kind of a half full kind of person rather than half empty. So I tend to look for things or look at things from a positive perspective. And I would say that there are two things that I focus on. One is, um, perspective is really important. If you look at things as being half empty, or if you look at everything as a problem that can't be solved, it's going to be a pretty heavy load to carry. So flip the switch, turn things around. A problem is an opportunity for a solution, and it's an opportunity for you to think about things differently. So kind of change your perspective and give yourself that self-talk that helps you to get out of thinking narrowly or darkly about whatever it is that you're facing, so you can be brighter about it, and you can move forward with problem solving. And the other thing is, be grateful. I'm grateful for the things that sometimes are problems. Our lease for our business was expiring May 30th. We were on a tear to try to find, the right space. And we had terrific help from CBRE, by the way, from David Trop, who we adore. And so we were looking for that. And as a kind of a happy thing that came out of this was that we did not sign a lease by March 12th, which is when we exited our offices. By the time our lease expired May 30th, we were able to let go of that obligation and go virtual. And we had gone virtual since March. We had a gala that had to be canceled in April. As a not-for-profit, that's a big piece of our revenue. But Liz, our sponsors stuck with us. And all but very few who weren't able to followed through. So we looked at things like, how can we make things better? How can we survive in this moment that is daunting, and, find the good stuff?
Yeah, that's great advice. And especially, given CoreNet is also an organization that relies very heavily on sponsors and members, and coming up on that sponsorship and membership drive now, that's a great reminder, that people will step up if they can, and support organizations that are meaningful to them. So that's a great story. I'm really glad to hear that as well.
There's goodness in the world.
There is goodness in the world. Yes, you're right.
There is.
So how have you found balance? Now we are working from home and you have gone fully virtual. So there really isn't a beginning or end to the day, not that there really ever was. But how do you find balance in working virtually or in an office with your personal life and your work life? Have you found anything that's worked, or maybe you're still a work in progress there, as a lot of us are, myself included? Would love to hear that.
Yeah, I think balance is a challenging term. I think it implies that you have to have an equation that you have to fulfill. And so I prefer to think of how do I stay centered?
Mm-hmm.
How do I manage to stay centered? And that involves a couple of things. So I have a discipline where I work out 4 days a week, and I've stuck with it, right? So in the beginning of this whole thing, I like most people, disoriented. How am I going to arrange my life? But I put some stakes in the ground. One, I was going to work out 4 days a week. The other is, I was in Paris last year, and in Normandy, and I thought, I really need to brush up on my French. So I started classes in the fall at the Alliance Française here in Chicago, physically. Well, then they went virtual. So on Tuesday nights, I have French every Tuesday night. And then I have been really taking advantage of, I love the arts, and artists have been very generous at this time, and cultural institutions have been especially generous, live streaming all kinds of great content, all kinds of great performances, some of them for a donation, some of them are just free. And that fills my soul and gets me away from listening to the news, which, by the way, if you're a news junkie, I recommend you stop and, just stop. read the paper. Don't look at the visuals. For me, I can read the paper, stay on top of things, but I'm not turning on the news. So that's what I do to stay centered.
Oh, that's great advice. And I have about 30 seconds left, so I'm going to ask the toughest question last, because you did bring up Paris and Normandy, which is one of my favorite places in the whole world. So when the borders reopen and we are able to travel again, where is the first place that you're going to go?
I'm going to Paris. I've been studying French for a year.
There you go. I know that was an easy one. That was a softball question. So as we're running out of time, I'm going to end with a quote from Ayn Rand. The question isn't who is going to let me, it's who is going to stop me. So many leaders, obviously, the sky is the limit, and we want the sky to be the limit for all the women leaders that are a part of Cornet and in the Chicago community as well. So thank you again so much, Maria. It was so wonderful to speak with you today. And I hope you stay well and continue to stay safe. And thanks again for giving us your time.
You too, Liz. Thank you so much.